everybody. Um, Happy Friday. I hope your week has gone well. If you're watching this, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. So I'm just gonna get on here. I just have a few thoughts. I really don't have a lot to say about days 3 and 4 of the DNC. Honestly, every time I looked at the DNC, this shit was like a party. It was hype. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think one of the reasons why the energy was so good throughout the entire convention is because they had black people there. And they had black people that they let be black. From Lil Jon, you had all the black music playing with actual black people there. Um, Governor Westmore of Maryland, calling on Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Kathy Hochul. You can take a page out of his book. Anyway, but no, it was really good. I think so. Tim Walz's speech was on the third day. He is the vice presidential nominee. A lot of what he said wasn't terribly new. Probably because I, read and keep up with some of this stuff, but also because I, he made the point in his speech. Y'all can probably tell I'm not used to giving, speeches like this in big places like this. I don't think that's a bad thing. I will actually say the one thing that is probably to his advantage, if you go back and look at that speech, is that because he's not one of those people who do those long political speeches, and this may be even connected to his history as a teacher, everything he said, I guarantee you, the average American could follow. People who are not into politics or not even used to political language. They could follow what he said, follow his ideas, his policies, the laws he put in place, so on and so forth. So, and forgive my outfit, y'all. I was just outside because I had to go sit in my car for an hour and a half of street sweeping so I could avoid tickets. You know how New York City is. They could follow. And while we're on Tim Walz, all the low down dirty motherfuckers in the world, and yes, Ann Coulter, but there were others, but especially Ann Coulter because she has that kind of platform. I don't know where and how y'all were fucking raised, ever, that y'all think it's okay to make fun of people who have mental disabilities, who are neurodivergent, and you think it's a joke, and then to call them weird and make fun of him. And this was all across the internet. Tim Walz's son, who is underage. And why would you do that? There's nothing funny about that. There's nothing nice about that. And if your parents taught you that it was acceptable to laugh and make fun of people with those issues, I'm looking at anybody who acts like that. Because my mother always told she would whoop our ass if she ever caught us laughing at people like that. Period. And that is something I have never strayed from. That's why that kind of stuff is not funny to me. And it's cruel. I don't care who you are. I don't care what party you belong to. It's fucking cruel. And you don't do that to people. Period. Donald Trump's son, the youngest one, is autistic. That's not funny to me either. And I would never think to make fun of him. That's bizarre to me. It's not bizarre. It's cruel and it's wrong. But you didn't do that to him. You're a fucked up person. But Tim Walz 8, when he said, why do all your fiancés keep leaving? Ho! Bitch. But all of y'all, anybody that thought that was okay on the internet, the hell with you. Anyway. So, Tim Walz, I like it. Welcome. All right. Now, like I said, the DNC was lit. The music was hot. They had a good diverse set of speakers. And when I say diverse, yes, racially, but we know people can be the same race and not be anything alike. But I mean, like, in terms of ideas, different people from different backgrounds, how they've come in to the Democratic Party, if at all. But certainly, I liked it. For those of you who thought Beyonce was going to show up at the DNC, I didn't understand why any of y'all thought that anyway. And then I heard that y'all heard from TMZ that she was gonna do it. TMZ, honey, y'all, baby, I haven't rocked with TMZ since they had that poll about whether you should be able to use the N word or not. White people, why are black people allowed to use the N word to that extent? All of their stuff always had an undertone of racism. And that's with or without the Beyonce stuff. When the Dixie Chick came out and sung the Star Spangled Banner and y'all didn't see no Beyonce, y'all should have known. All right, anyway, so we get through that. And I fucks with the Dixie Chicks because they were the same people who came out against the war in Iraq, and they lost a lot of support in that country music world. Okay, and they stood on that shit. All right, day 4, I have to be honest. This was probably the most underwhelming day. Even though it was still fun and stuff like that, I just, it's just kind of like when you start out with like day 1 being so fire and it's all the way through. I think, but then I had gotten used to it. But anyway, they brought out the Exonerated 5, formerly known as the Central Park 5. There is never going to be a moment when I don't see that and what happened to those young men now still in their prime as tragic. Yeah, they're still alive, but they stole those years from them. And Donald Trump, who took out an 85,000 page ad in the late 80s to ensure that these young boys were locked up for a crime they never committed, that there wasn't really evidence for. Nothing. But because they were black, they could do it. And turns out, you live long enough, and this son of a bitch is guilty several times over of what he was accusing these young boys of doing. Ain't that about a bitch? But don't tell me race in this country don't matter. Don't tell me that. Because he gets to go on to be president of the United States despite having no experience. And these young men who are now in their prime still had to figure out how to get their lives together. I mean, Yusuf Salam was, elected here in Harlem recently, but still. So for me, that story remains heart-wrenching. I'm glad to know that they somehow got a form of justice, but justice would have been if that would have never happened. So, shout out to them. Courtney Baldwin gave a quick speech. She's a human trafficking survivor, and she came and talked about how Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, shut down, fought to shut down the website Backpage.com, which is actually the same, and that's one of the things that helped her actually get out of a system of being trafficked as a teenager. And that is literally the same site where Crystal Kaiser, the young lady that I made a video about who murdered her trafficker after he raped and abused her and sold her to different people over and over again. That's where she came into contact with that man. All right? What I tell y'all? So we can give her, when I told y'all the story about her coming to that, small community meeting about human trafficking, I'll give Kamala that. All right. So, Kerry Washington, who I've never been a fan of, I'm just not a fan. That's how I want to put it. I find her voice really annoying. Incredibly annoying. I get the Kamala with Kamala's nieces. That was cute for the nieces. I wanted Kerry Washington to get off the stage. I don't care about the other guy who's in Hollywood who apparently y'all got rumors about. I don't care. I just find her voice annoying. Moving on. We finally get to the moment of the night, and let me tell you something. My teacher body was like, hurry up, get her on stage. Kamala, I was expecting you to come out with a brighter color. Okay, I know that is so shallow. Anyway, so Kamala gave a political speech. She did. She talked about she is always going to stand up for Israel to have the right to defend itself. Okay. You can say that. We don't need to sell them weapons to help them carry out a genocide against people. And then she said, and then we also, I really want a ceasefire so Palestinians have the right to sovereignty, this, that, and the other. And the history of these two countries battling will still continue, because the Palestinians know that Israel as a state, as a nation state, exists because of the space it occupies in their land. And the people who are pro-Palestinian protesters, keep up the good fight. The DNC kicking out the House representative from Georgia under their tent when they were having an event. They didn't have any space for her, but they had space for longtime Republicans. Yeah, if I was her, I'd be absolutely offended, and they deserve to be called out on every aspect of that. And not only that, they owe her not only a public apology, but an opportunity and platform to actually give her space and speech about what's going on in Palestine, even though they already know and don't care. And you got to deal with that, Kamala. Because you vice president, you second in command. You're not Joe Biden, and I realize she's been cut out of a lot of those spaces. But when you're in that position, you have to take responsibility. I guess for me, I just, heard a lot of the same, how she grew up, so on and so forth. I don't know why I've been saying this, and I messed up, and I want to make sure this is clear. She did not go to Stanford Law School. She went to UC Hastings, which is also in San Francisco, and someplace I actually thought about going when I was considering being a lawyer. But it wasn't Stanford. I don't know why in my mind I kept saying Stanford, Stanford, Stanford in a lot of my videos. So please take this as a correction. I'm actually surprised nobody corrected me on it. I don't know why I kept saying that in my mind. I don't know what was going on up here. But anyway, it's UC Hastings. Okay. But, she gave the background about her, Indian mother, immigrant, how people treated her. I caught that dog whistle and how that would piss her off because she knew they were doing that because she was a dark Indian, so on and so forth. I think Kamala, I'm going to be honest, is stepping as lightly as possible. Not as lightly as possible, but light, just because we have less than 90 days to make sure a dictator and authoritarian leader does not get in office. I do not think for a second that when Kamala is talking about the middle class, that she is acting like she does not know what it is to be poor or ignoring impoverished people. I think she knows that what will happen is that the Republicans will take that as an opportunity to say, yeah, she just wants everybody to live off the government, and we can see how disinformation penetrates the media, so on and so forth. Also, while we're on the media, and I don't know why this keeps showing up on my For You page on TikTok, Don Lemon, who I don't like, don't fuck with, all that self-hating, white supremacist internalized stuff he was spewing, and y'all went on a whole social media rant, pray for Don Lemon, and somehow he fixed his jargon, and still was doing that little, I'm here, I'm there, I'm moderate, I'm playing. After he done made his millions of dollars, we give a damn whether he got fired or not, fuck him. Going up to all of these black people and then constantly putting on TikTok the ones that are voting for Trump, not the ones that are voting for Kamala. And I think that also has a bent. And I think it's also, and I'm not saying that those people aren't saying they're voting for Trump, but I do think that game, particularly with him as somebody who has notoriety in the media and puts that up on TikTok on a regular basis, it's obnoxious to not show. I refuse to believe you're not running into other black people who are saying they're voting for her. And I don't know why I keep showing up on my For You page because I don't fuck with Don Lemon. But anyway, you know how those algorithms go. And so I'm just not here for it. But the DNC, I'm going to be honest with y'all, they had to pivot seriously because you have to change the lingo and the language and the personhood and all this of those shit. You have to change a lot, even though she's been on the ticket with Biden. That's a hell of a convention that they put on. Now, even if you don't like them, you cannot tell me that fly-ass roll call, shout out to Lil Jon, shout out to the home state, shout out to the A, was not hot. That the energy there, I mean, it's really just shifted. Just because, once again, we have a president who can walk and talk at an acceptable speed. And I think maybe this should be a lesson for everybody to understand that if you can be too young for something, you can be too old for something. And that politics should be a game for people in their prime, especially up here. I don't necessarily mean just simply by age, but there's a lot of people just taking up space in politics, from the Supreme Court bench to the office of the presidency to the House of Representatives and the Senate. People who just refuse to give it up. Anyway, but no, overall, I thought the convention was good. This Palestine stuff isn't going away. No, I'm not letting her off the hook for no police brutality, the prosecutor shit. And she did prosecute some good cases, but you do need to apologize to that man who California had to pay $13.1 million to because y'all had him wrongfully in prison saying he killed his friend. And apparently he was a contestant on I Love New York. And when I was watching him in this interview on Vice, I remember saying, why does he look familiar? And that would have been the time I was in college. And he was actually very gracious, I have to say. He was just like, when I hear about her now, yeah, I do think she sounds like the senator she's been, but I remember her only showing up to court twice, and both of them was to say she was going to lock me up. Yeah, and she has to answer for that. I'm not here, once again, I'm not an ideologue. I'm not here to defend people off the rip. I will also advise Kamala, y'all gonna have to really develop that website with a clear platform, and I know you haven't had that much time because you've been doing a whole lot since it's been less than what a regular calendar month would be of 31 days. That in and of itself sounds like I may be too hard, but asking for money and then it's just me, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz. We could Google that. All right, let us know. All right, we need this stuff in writing. Anyway, that's what I have to say about this, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.